absolutely make no bones about that whatsoever. But if you're wrong, as I believe, I genuinely believe you're wrong, then it leaves two avenues of explanation for why you would pursue this so aggressively. One, you've been duped by these French journalists. And secondly, worse, that you kind of know it's not true, but you've ridden the wave of conspiracy theory about it because it's been so lucrative and it's gone around the world, like you've been saying. And I think that is why they're suing you, because ultimately they know that you've been amplifying this massively more than the journalists had in France, getting way more global traction. And it boils down to one simple fact, not photographs, as you keep trying to distract me with, but a sex test. If on day one of this case, she just produces an actual sex test report that says she's a woman, you're going to realize in that moment you've been completely duped. What do you do then?
My children, long before, if I ever got to the point where I thought that I needed to launch a lawsuit, I would probably just release a few photos if we're playing devil's advocate here.
But ultimately, the easiest and quickest and best way to prove to me that you're a woman, and I'm not disputing that you're a woman, I think you probably are. I know you like to cast doubt on people's gender and sexuality, so I'll just leave it floating, hoping that someone in the internet world grabs it and makes me tons of money with a, is Candace male or female? But my point is this, you would be able to prove it to me by taking a simple sex test, right? You would just say, here we are, here are the results.
I don't think you could do that, Piers. I don't think you could ask for a sex test. Give me the sex test. You know, they might think you're asking for something different, you know. Are you ready to take the sex test? How good are you at sex?
Here's the sex test. That's the best way to do this, right?
Actually, because we were in communication with her legal team long before she launched this website, we never asked for something that deep. We literally gave her a list of 21 yes or no questions and asked her to just answer it on the record. Also offered to fly over to Paris and interview Brigitte to get her side of the story. Before we even launched the first episode of the Becoming Brigitte series, we were in communication and offered them a chance to rebut. And they came back and said, we don't have to submit anything to prove that she is a woman, and we don't want to answer your questions. I've published those legal letters. It's the reason why people that watch this series are just not believing the media when they pretend that this was like, oh, Candace wanted the blood of the first lady. No. Also, she's not suing. Obviously, my series was based on a book entitled Becoming Brigitte that I did alongside the journalist who worked on this story for 10 years. She's not suing him for defamation, but she is suing him for cyberbullying, which is really, if you read through the lawsuit against me, they are misrepresenting the things that I've said, taking them out of context, and pretty much smearing me in the process by pretending that we asked something extraordinary by saying we won't run this entire series if you can just show us a few photos of you living in this 30-year period.
Like, imagine like you're just out living your life, right? And there's this random influencer asking you, hey, look, I'm going to say that you're a man unless you show me pictures right now. And you come and you could fly all the way over here and I could interview and you could just say, no, you're not a man. Like, imagine like there's just someone out there just demanding this of you and you're just trying to live your life, you know? Like, think of it from like, is it Brigitte Macron? Is that her name? You know, like imagine like that. You're just trying to like live your life, you know? And you got fucking Candace Owens here going, you need to fly over to me to do an interview. Or, and you know what? If you want to do this interview, great. And if you don't, well, we're going to publish this now. You know, it's like, obviously, like, why would anyone want to waste their time?
Right. I think photos can be easily manipulated. We know that in the modern era. I just think a sex test is definitive. And the reason I'm asking you this is because I'm assuming, and maybe I'm completely wrong, maybe I'm the deluded one here, I don't think so, but I'm assuming the only reason that Brigitte Macron and her husband, who's the president of France, are coming after you personally in American courts for defamation is that they know all they have to do to completely refute your entire conspiracy theory, which is what they say it is they just have to prove she's a woman. If she's a woman and she's had 3 children miraculously. And I know I've seen your slightly torturous explanation for how she's managed to secretly have 3 kids, and it wasn't her, and she's a man. And but I've seen what you've said. But ultimately, if she proves she's a woman, which is very easily provable, your whole case just implodes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Piers, it sounds like you're on our side. It's been 10 years of the press saying that she was born a woman. She's sued people for cyberbullying. She's sued people for speaking wrong about a document. And yet the easiest path would have just been to simply release photos from 30 years of your life. That is why this is unbelievable. You're also, I think, largely misrepresenting.
Then imagine too, like, Macron's an older woman, so it's not like as easy as just like going through like your phone or something. Oh yeah, here's me, like when I was 10 or something. Like, she's probably got to go and find these photos and all this stuff. And then like what for though? It's like, even if she were to do this, do you really like, I highly doubt Candace is going to come out and be like, yeah, you know what, I was wrong and I take it back. Like, no, at most she's probably just going to shut up about it and just move on.
Presenting my series, you showed only clips of me discussing things after the lawsuit, but you didn't actually show anything from my series. I don't think my series has gripped the entire world and caused a global leader to get on a plane and beg President Trump to shut me up because I'm just sitting there going, la, 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 she looks like a woman in a wig. No. It's a very serious subject, actually, Piers. And if you watched even the first episode of the Becoming Brigitte series, you'll understand there's an entire network of pedo criminals that are surrounding the Macrons. They have had multiple scandals regarding pedophilia that have just engulfed his presidency. And they are going after journalists. And to be clear, these were mainstream journalists, not far-right podcasters or however it's being presented in the media today, that were simply trying to do a biography on the First Lady. They were supporters of her. They were feminists. They wanted to basically glorify her as the president's wife, and they fell down a dark hole. Condé Nast journalists, by the way. They fell down a dark hole because they felt suddenly that they weren't able to get any answers to their basic questions. This was a mainstream issue in France. And so I think you do yourself a disservice when you misrepresent it as if I'm just like sitting here going, la, 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 she's wearing a wig. Show the real excerpts from the Becoming Brigitte series. It's incredibly compelling.
No, I saw that.
Even you could ignore.
Everyone's always like, no, but watch the series. And they're like, yeah, I did see it. It was a load of crap. I haven't seen it yet, by the way, but like Piers and I think Andrew Wilson's talked about it, and they're like, no, I've seen the series, and it just seems it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we've seen it, it's just not convincing.
It's strange. Like 30 years of it. Why would you go through all this effort when you could just drop photos of 30 years of your life where you allegedly had 3 children? Where are your children, by the way?
Allegedly had 3 children.
Wouldn't your children come out, Piers, and defend you by just dropping pictures of their childhood with you? Do you know her children won't do that? And yet miraculously, those same children do
Candace,
drop photos of their father?
All right, Candace, let me present another series of explanations for.
Yeah, the thing about the children, though, is that, like, so if she's trans, right? If she's trans, well, yeah, how would she be able to give birth then? That's the whole thing. So, that means, like, even if you didn't want to go through Macron, like, even if Brigitte Macron was like, yeah, I don't want to do this, like, one of the kids could take DNA tests and be like, yeah, see, look, I have DNA from my mom and my father, and that would shut everything down. But even then, it's like all of this hassle, and for what? Like imagine you're just trying to live your life, and there's just people out there that I'm like, nah, you're a man. It's like, oh, geez.
What's happened here?
Sure.
I believe, and maybe I'm wrong. All right, so let me put that caveat at the start here. Maybe you're right, okay? I don't think you are. I think you've been hoodwinked by these journalists who have gone on a complete fantasy trail of nonsense, trying to suggest Brigitte Macron never had 3 children, is a man, it's all a lie, and all the stuff that you've been doing on your channel, and getting huge traffic for and making tons of money. So if you're right, it's been a magnificent display of fearless journalism exposing a bombshell revelation about the First Lady of France. I absolutely make no bones about that whatsoever. But if you're wrong, as I believe, I genuinely believe you're wrong, then it leaves 2 avenues of explanation for why you would pursue this so aggressively. One, you've been duped. by these French journalists. And secondly, worse, that you kind of know it's not true, but you've ridden the wave of conspiracy theory about it because it's been so lucrative and it's gone around the world, like you've been saying. And I think that is why they're suing you, because ultimately they know that you've been amplifying this massively more than the journalists had in France, getting way more global traction. And it boils down to one simple fact, not photographs, as you keep trying to distract me with, but a sex test. If on day one of this case, she just produces an actual sex test report that says she's a woman, you're going to realize in that moment you've been completely duped. What do you do then?
Of course they add the ads. These people, they know when they put ads, they know when to leave you on a cliffhanger. But dude, I actually want to see what she says here, because Piers Morgan is pretty much like, this is pretty good by Piers, I gotta say. Calling her out to her face, saying, hey, listen, either you've been duped or you're fucking grifting. And they know you're grifting, and that is why they're doing this. So this is good stuff. I want to see what Candace has to report on this, because obviously, yes, those are my theories as well. Either she's an idiot and she's been duped, or she's a grifter. So here, before we get back to that, before Candace answers the questions, I want you to join Jacked Up Fitness. It's the most jacked up fitness that you could get. No other gym, not 24-hour fitness, not LA Fitness, not any of these fitnesses will you get as jacked up as Jacked Up Fitnesses. You order the equipment, they send it to your house, and you just work out at your house. You get totally jacked up. Use code Piers to save $10.
Piers, I'm not concerned about it because, like I said, it's been about 10 years and Brigitte could have done that at any moment. She's been in multiple lawsuits, involved in lawsuits, trying to shut journalists up. I mean, you really are asking people to defy their common sense in this moment. They know what has happened here. They know.
I think she's the one asking people to defy their common sense. Her and all these other people that are like, with the conspiracy theories and stuff, they're the ones that are constantly asking people to defy their common sense.
That we went to Brigitte before we started this series to get Brigitte's side of this. We were in contact with Brigitte's lawyers, the same ones that filed this case. We asked simple yes or no questions. We were not requiring a blood test. We were asking, can you confirm this is you in this photo from the childhood that has been produced, ironically, by a woman who was charged for forging documents. That woman's name is Mimi Marchand, and she was the first couple's PR person until she got in too much trouble for being a gangster and forging documents. They refused and declined to answer those questions. So, like I said, you are asking people at home to suspend their common sense and to truly believe that rather than answering yes or no questions, rather than maybe at first going after the author of the book, Xavier Poussard, who is a Frenchman, for defamation, that would be the first thing. Why don't you launch, at least at the same time, both of these suits? I'm going to go after Candace and Xavier Poussard. They are instead only going after me for defamation and not the person who sourced this entire quote unquote rumor. There is, let me tell you, Piers, too many people who have watched this series, okay? They're watching your show now and they know that you are not accurately presenting what has happened here. But also, Piers, I think you are better than defending a pedocriminal network, right? And that's the biggest piece of the story is how many people around them have gone down, publicly admitted that they were pedophiles and were involved in this campaign at the beginning. Even if you removed the allegation, which I believe from the bottom of my heart, like I said early on, I would stake my entire career on the notion that she was actually born Jean-Michel Trugnel. I believe that, right? And I'm willing to go through this because it's an important story about government deception. But even if you suspended that, you are right now defending a government that lied even about the beginning of their quote unquote love story, in which his parents removed him from school because of this creepy 40-year-old teacher who found a 14-year-old student to be sexy or attractive. This is wrong. Everything that's happening right now in France is wrong and it is perverted. And as a mother, I will stand up to this. And I am confident that we will emerge as the winners of this because in America, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And I am telling the truth.
So now she's pivoting to the creepy nature of the Macrons' relationship, which, yes, I agree. Definitely wrong. Definitely creepy. But that's not what this is about, though. It's about Candace accusing Macron of being born a man, which isn't true. And that's what that lawsuit is about. But she's trying to pivot onto that, trying to turn it around on Piers, saying, well, now you're trying to defend child loving. Now you're trying to defend that, all because Piers is putting her in the hot seat, putting her absolutely in the hot seat, and she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to wiggle her way out of it.
Yeah, it is an absolute defense. And I think there are perfectly legitimate questions about how their relationship started, the massive age gap, and the rest of it. I don't dispute that for a moment. But, as you say, in a defamation case, it ultimately comes down to truth mattering. And it seems to me this whole case is going to be resolved in a very straightforward way, because the obvious way to prove that you're wrong and have been systematically lying about it, if you've been doing it deliberately or otherwise, but telling a lie about her, which has obviously caused an enormous amount of hurt, is if they just produce evidence she's a woman. Do you accept if they do that, your whole case disintegrates?
Of course it would disintegrate. Well, first off, no, they would have to prove the actual malice standard in America, which would mean that we knowingly knew this. We went to them with questions and they refused to answer. That is very strange. You're saying you're a victim now because this series came out, and yet you had the power to stop the series when we came to you and said, we're not interested in telling any lies.
So Candace does this. She puts people in like hostage situations here. So for instance, she's saying, well, it's on her because she had the power to stop this. It would be like saying, it's like you hold a gun to someone's head and well, now it's up to you. It's up to you to stop this. All you got to do is just send me a $10,000 or something, and if you don't, then I'm shooting this person. Like, that's what she does. She did that to Crowder as well. With the whole Steven Crowder situation, she's the one that pretty much outed his divorce. Like, she threatened to out his divorce by saying, if you keep attacking the Daily Wire, well, then I do know some personal information about you. I won't reveal it. Well, I might reveal it. It depends on if you keep going with this or not. And then the very next week, Crowder had to reveal that, yes, he is getting a divorce because Candace is the one that put it out there in the mainstream. She does this. She does these hostage situations. Well, they had the power to stop this. I was just holding the gun to the person's head. I didn't have to shoot him. They made me shoot him. Like, she didn't have to put out the documentary. She did not have to put out a documentary saying that Macron was that Brigitte Macron is a man. No one forced her to put the documentary together. No one forced her to say these things. She chose to do that. But now she's absolving herself of responsibility and putting it all on Brigitte Macron. Pretty much again, it's not my fault I shot this person. They had the power to stop me.
I actually want to get to the truth of this story. And we asked very simple questions. Did you ever live as a woman named Veronique? I believe, yes, Brigitte Macron, before taking on the identity of Brigitte Trogneau, lived as a woman named Veronique. Why wouldn't you just answer that question and say no? If it gave you so much grief that this rumor was out there, why not respond to that effectively in the 10-year period that you had the time to respond to it? Okay, Brigitte is not a victim. Far from that, I believe Brigitte is actually somebody who has victimized Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron is pathetic. He's absolutely pathetic for letting this go on for so long. You could easily dispel these rumors. And like I said, we were asking for photos from a 30-year period of Brigitte's life. We were not asking for blood. We were asking for simple answer, yes or no. Could you show us some photos of you raising your alleged children? They failed to produce that and now are pretending that they're victims. And of
but
course,
they're under no obligation.
Yeah.
Right, they're not, but don't then complain and say
obligation.
you had to file a lawsuit. They contacted us, Piers. You're under no obligation. We didn't reach out to them. They reached out to us first.
Yeah, Candace is like it's again, it would be like it's like a hostage situation. Candace puts these people in, hey, if you don't want this information out there, then send me $10,000. Same thing with Brigitte. Like, Brigitte's gonna send personal like photos and all this stuff to Candace Owens in exchange for, well, we won't put this documentary out there as long as you answer these personal questions and stuff like that. It's like, Candace, like, what are you doing here?
Hang on. They say they made it crystal clear to you that all your claims were wrong, right? That your basic premise that she's a man is wrong. They said they told you that before. You went ahead anyway. You've carried on. Even when they launched the lawsuit, you carried on saying the same stuff, right? And it's a massive play on your part. Listen, I admire your balls. I mean, it's probably the wrong term to use given the issue we're discussing. But I do admire your balls, right? Because you're going for it and you're doubling and trebling and quadrupling down. But ultimately, your entire reputation is now directly linked, it seems to me, to whether Brigitte Macron is male or female. If she proves she's a woman, where does that leave you?
If she was going to prove she was a woman, she would have done it over the last 10 years. And like I said, they came to us first and we said, we will not publish this series if you answer questions. Okay. So they were on the offense in that moment. I didn't go to them and go, I deserve a response to this. They had their lawyers email us speaking about this question. And so I have been completely honest and transparent with my audience. This matters to me because I'm a mother. And there are too many people around them that have been charged with pedophilia, many who have admitted that they were pedophiles, not even just pedophiles, incestuous pedophiles, people that molested their children that are surrounding them. Even the lawyers that they're dealing with are lawyers that defend pedophile and incest, preferring it to as happy incest when children are molested by their fathers. That's their current lawyer who has attached himself to this case in France, Eric Dupont-Moretti. Everywhere you look, you see a story regarding incest and pedophilia that surrounds this couple. I have presented that to the public. And if you are going to pretend that they have not lied, Piers, a couple of weeks ago, when Brigitte smacked Emmanuel Macron on camera on the plane, the Élysée Palace answered and said that it was Russian propaganda and that it never happened. They lie all the time. And it's very easy to lie in France, where they have laws against speech and laws against cyberbullying and where journalists are afraid. It's not so easy to lie in America. I'm glad they brought this to my turf because now the French people are.
Well, that wasn't a slap. That was like a push to the mouth. And we don't know the proper context there. Like, what if he had said like a stupid joke, like, you know, and then she was like, oh, shut up, like that, you know, like, oh, shut up. You don't know. That could be the context. I'm not saying that is what happened, but that is a possibility. We don't know what the context of it was. So therefore, we don't know how the media was being portrayed after that. Again, maybe she was being violent toward him. I have no idea. But that's why I'm not coming on here and saying, she slapped him, because I don't know if that's what happened. However, Candace here, she loves doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on things that she doesn't know about.
Watching and cheering, knowing that this couple, from the very beginning, they are due for an exposure. And no, I do not believe that she is going to be able to now or willing to suddenly prove that she is a woman when she could have done that for the last 8 years.
All right. Well, you know what, Candace? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. And I can't wait until it is proven that, yes, she's a woman and Candace Owens' career goes right down the shitter. Now, I guess we'll have to see if that happens. Again, if it turns out, whoa, Macron is actually a man, well, then okay. All right. I'll come on here and say, yeah, you know what? Candace was right. She was right. You know what? She stuck to her guns. Good for her. She was absolutely right. But yes, like Piers and like others, I don't think she's right. I just think she doesn't know when to stop. You know, she doesn't know when to stop. And I honestly, sometimes I don't know if this is grifting or Candace Owens is just an idiot. It is one of the two. She's either stupid or she's grifting. But the thing is that if she was grifting, like, you would have to think that she would know when to stop. Like, she would have to know when to stop. So it has to be like her logic is flawed, maybe. Like, she thinks because they never submitted evidence earlier, then okay, well then therefore she's a man. And it's like, well, no. Again, Candace, you know, Candace, I'm sure, has been a victim of this type of stuff. If there's like a reporter or a journalist or something doing a story and they hit you up and be like, hey, I'm going to post this story. Are you willing to answer these questions? And it's kind of like, you know, that no matter how you answer, the journalist is going to kind of spin it to however they want anyway. So it's kind of like no use in responding. I'm sure Candace herself has gone through that, being a right-wing figure. And so I can't imagine that. I could imagine this is probably what the similar thing is going on with Brigitte Macron. And Candace is being like those journalists, just saying, well, if you don't give me this information, then I am posting this. And it's like, okay, that again, just because Macron didn't answer the questions that you wanted to, doesn't mean that, oh, therefore she's actually a man. And again, Candace is either grifting or she's stupid for not realizing it. But what do you guys think about this video? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this. If you like seeing Piers Morgan's, you could go to his channel. There's a link in the description if you want to see the full video. Or you could also check out playlists that I have on my channel featuring all these great Piers Morgan clips. Also, watch the Cool Stream live Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time.